It is Saturday night, June the 20th. We got a very big show this week, but the next couple of weeks are going to line up even bigger. And without any further ado, Michael,
Where did you pull June out of?
happy birthday to you. You smell like the zoo.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. As I've been telling people, tomorrow I will officially be halfway to 90.
Age or speed limit?
Yes.
Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah. So, yes, James, we do have a big show tonight, and the next couple weeks get even bigger. There's a lot going on in the sports world. We've had everything from big baseball signings, which we're not going to get into. We have next week is going to be a very big show. It's also going to be our first one without our current format is next week. We have a huge guest, which we will introduce to you guys at the end of the show during the second half. And we got a lot to go over in the hat trick here. So let's jump right into it, my friend. And let's talk about last week in the NFL in the first week of the playoffs and the results that I think some of them shocked a lot of people. And let's start with the one all the way to the right. We'll leave that one all the way to the left for the end because that's the Browns.
As I corrected it, there we go. That's better.
That's okay. So let's start all the way to the right-hand side with the final game of the weekend, the Philadelphia Eagles in Tampa. And trivia question for you, James. Since 1995, since the NFL went to this current playoff format, there are 5 quarterbacks who have playoff wins with multiple teams. Can you name them?
I don't think they get expanded when Manning got, or I'm going to go Peyton Manning.
1.
Baker Mayfield.
2.
Tom Brady.
3.
No, not David Carr.
I don't know if David Carr.
Yes, David Carr.
Nope. You're missing 2 that are from our younger days, one of which played for a team. His second team is listed on that list right there.
Wasn't Tommy Maddox?
No, these are big time. These last 2 are big time. Like Hall of Fame, top 10 of all time quarterbacks.
They hadn't expanded to this format for Joe Montana, and I also don't think he won a playoff game in Kansas City.
He most certainly did. Joe Montana. When I say this format, I mean actually that's the playoffs all time. Excuse me. It's not just this format. So yes, we've got Brady, we've got Montana, we've got Manning, we've got Baker Mayfield.
Warren Moon?
5. No, believe it. You would think Warren Moon, but he never won a playoff game in Minnesota. Randall Cunningham was that quarterback that went to that NFC title game against the Dirty Birds.
Because I keep forgetting about Cunningham's time in Minnesota as well.
It's a man that helped cause me to give up on the New York Jets, who then immediately, well, let's put it this way. There's a quarterback who's following his same career path. He just needs to leave the Jets and go to Minnesota next. The gunslinger himself.
Boss Hog.
Boss Hog. So, yeah, all-time quarterbacks with wins with multiple playoff teams. Brady, Montana, Manning, Favre, and Baker Mayfield. But the bigger point about this game, I think, was what the fuck happened to the Philadelphia Eagles?
we could speculate until we're blue in the face with Nick Sirianni, and we'll talk about that in the second half in a new segment that we're going to debut, or at least we've officially named uh
Yes.
afterwards. But their defense is an absolute was a train wreck the second half of the year, which you'd figure as good as that defense has been for really the first half of the year. Um, and I mean, look at two of the teams on there and their complete and utter reversal of fortune trajectories. The Eagles couldn't stop anybody the second half of the year and nosedove faster than the Steelers did after running off 11 straight wins and then losing their last six when the Browns bounced them a few years ago. And then, Buffalo couldn't. Nobody could actually, get out of the way of the Josh Allen train, and their defense turned lights out, including that performance last week.
Yeah, and of course now with them being eliminated, and let me just say, going back to the defense, um, I've watched all the highlight packages. Obviously, I stream everything, and I didn't watch other than the bits and pieces of the first game of the weekend. Um, if you haven't watched the Manning cast from last week from that game, Ray Lewis almost lost his shit. I haven't seen such bad tackling since watching Brush play when we were in high school.
I'll take your word for that because I never went to a Brush game when we were
It
in
was god
school.
awful.
Well, remember, between my 4 years and your one extra after I graduated, I think we only won like 10 games in 5 years. Mike's audio, I think, went out for a moment. Say
I
something,
don't know
Mike.
what just happened. Give me 2 seconds. Let me turn the Bluetooth off, turn it back on. I'll reconnect the earbud.
Okay, yeah, you're good now. I got you now. There's a little bit of a delay, but but we got you. You just got real kind of Neo for a minute. There was definitely a glitch in the matrix.
Yes, it most certainly was. How about now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. The video's not synced up. Do me a favor. Cut your camera and your audio for a moment. Don't so much log out and then try to reconnect both and see what happens.
How about now?
Better.
Okay. Let me try one other thing here.
This is actually perfect because I forgot to start the timer on the segment a couple of minutes. So this is perfect.
Well,
So now
that's good.
it's all gonna come
That's
out in the
good.
wash.
Well, good. So, but we now have the biggest question of, in my opinion, of that team's offseason is are they going to lose their center? And really the heartbeat of their team and Cleveland Heights' own Jason Kelsey. He did mention about retirement, I guess, in a post-game locker room speech to his teammates. And
Yes.
according to Shefty, and then he went on New Heights this week, and he has said he has not made up his mind totally. So, in my opinion, I think Jason Kelsey has redefined the center position with his athleticism and his speed. No Northeast Ohio bias aside, I think it's time. Kylie wants him to be able to still get on the floor and play with the girls.
Right.
It's time. It's time.
He's going to be 35 next year, and we're not talking like Bruce Matthews and Jackie Slater and Anthony Munoz, where these guys were playing into their late 30s, or even their early 40s on the offensive line anymore. So
No. And he's made enough money that he doesn't need to.
Yeah, and especially you also figure with the endorsement deals, his whatever money he's making from those hilarious new Tide commercials, and the sponsorship with the podcasts and everything, and the fact that he's going to be leeching off his brother's girlfriend's money, for the rest of his life.
You're a dick. Nicely done, sir. Oh my
I did
God.
actually speaking of which, shifting gears for 2 very quick seconds. I think I brought it up and it with you on the phone the other day. It's really cool that like somebody showed how she had made his jersey into a coat.
That was the fullback from San Francisco. His wife made those.
Yes, that's actually pretty cool. I mean, it wouldn't actually be worth if I actually knew how to sew, that'd be something pretty cool, but it's like you're buying, $125, $130 jersey just to hack it up.
Yeah, I mean I wouldn't do that personally because I don't have that kind of money. But I digress. So a very unflattering end to a run towards trying to defend their NFC crown. And I want to talk real quick about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We now see what Baker would have been with weapons and a defense, which is he's not blowing you off the stat sheet. He keeps the offense on schedule. Every now and again, he makes a play. You go, don't. Oh, okay, you threw it. And it comes down. And Chris Godwin, that catch he made on that ball, he had it. I don't know if you saw the highlight.
Yes. I watched that game.
But yeah, it was listen, Tampa's not going to be an easy out if their defense plays as well as they have.
Certainly not tomorrow, although they're probably going into the most hostile environment of any of the home teams remaining in these playoffs. But let's actually look at all 5 games out there. And we're not gonna talk about the game that already ended earlier today, but a lot of blowouts there, and 4 of those teams were really exposed as frauds in terms of Pittsburgh backing in, Philadelphia, Miami, and Dallas.
The Dallas Cowboys shocked the hell out of me, being brutally honest. I mean, I thought that team was going to make a run. I didn't think they had enough to get to the Super Bowl, to be very honest with you. I love Detroit. I don't know. I will discuss their next game later. Detroit played really well against the Rams, but the Cowboys just getting hood stomped. Because that
16-point final score is very, very deceptive just because of Green Bay having to put some starters back in later just because Dallas was making that run. Okay, if they get a touchdown here, could we actually? I mean, this is like a 1-score game at this point. We actually got to wake up. The stadium was 3/4 of the way empty at that point, though.
Yeah, no, I did notice that Cowboy fans are, as per usual, were out the door as soon as adversity hit their team.
It was I think the funniest thing of that was in the final 3 minutes when Dallas started when they scored 3 touchdowns in like 4.5, 5 minutes or whatever it was. The Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders on the sideline, you could see them in the background every time they would score. They're like, what do we do? We're not going to jump up and down and do everything. But as it was getting closer, it was like every time they scored and they got a little bit closer, they honestly didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I didn't see that because, again, once I saw the final score, I watched the highlight packages, so it's not like it's going to show you that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But just watching it, I will say this. Dan Quinn needs to be slapped. That defense was terrible. They were god-awful. And I don't know if you heard Rex Ryan on Monday on Get Up. They tried to, as always, with ESPN, they tried to blame the quarterback when the defense gave up 50 points.
Yes.
And Rex goes, don't you dare blame this on Dak Prescott. This was the defense. And he's 100% right. Speaking of it being on the defense, let's talk about that Miami-Kansas City game. Granted, it was so god-awful cold that Andy Reid looked like a freaking walrus. with the frozen mustache. But let's talk about this, and let me be very blunt with you. And I said this to you before the season. I've said it since the guy was in college. When Tua Tagovailoa is on the field with a team that can run with him, he's god awful. God awful. And it's not an Alabama thing with me, it's a hype thing with me. This is a guy who had barely 50% completion in one half, and because of a throw on a blown coverage, was automatically the Heisman front runner.
You also
And
figure what's the best way to neutralize an offense full of track stars between Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle? Put him in negative 30 below.
well, there's that, and then punch him in the face. This is the best defense that the Kansas City Chiefs have had in the Patrick Mahomes era.
The exploding helmet, Patrick Mahomes, mind you.
Dude, that was insanity. You should have heard the Kelsey brothers talk about that. It was actually quite funny. And then Detroit and the Rams. Let me just say this about the Detroit Lions. Good on you. This is a long time coming for that city to be this excited about football this late in the year.
That was, regardless of what the score looks like, that was easily the best game of the entire weekend. It was just because remember the Rams had a chance late to be able to take the lead, and then Detroit just put the clamps on them.
They did. They really did, and that was a great, great end to that game. Hats off to both teams. I thought it was hilarious. Eminem was on TikTok, and he told Matthew Stafford, "I rap for you. I need this one. You got your Super Bowl. I need one."
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Stafford looked good though. I don't think you could tell he got his bell rung pretty good.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think he's coming back, Jim. I don't.
I really don't. They kind of want to turn the team over to Stetson Bennett, and then actually, I mean, because they've got a lot of good young talent waiting to come up, but they can't really do a whole lot right now because of Stafford's contract tying up 20 million this year, and then if he came back next year, I think it actually inflates to like 35 or 40.
He's got a big cap hit. He's got a big cap hit next year. So all in all, good football. I mean, a lot of blowouts, but a lot of good football was played this past weekend. Listen, and by the way, hats off to both the fans of the Buffalo Bills and the fans of the Squealers. Yeah, I see that showed up to Buffalo. I told you I was watching McAfee, and he had the funniest line of the weekend. He goes, "When are these fans going to consider just turning around and pissing on their seats to melt the snow?" Bro, what are you doing? So
that was the everlasting image for all the great football that there was. Houston with their raucous crowd. Tampa defending. At home. The electric atmosphere in Detroit. I still think the most indelible, thought in everybody's head is just going to see all of that snow flying LeBron James style at Highmark Stadium all afternoon. It looked like, I think I told you, it looked like geysers shooting off in the bottom of the ocean. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the volcano exploding at the end of Total Recall after they hit the reactor.
Yes.
The first one.
There was a second one?
It was Colin Farrell, Jessica Biel, and Kate Beckinsale.
Do you think I watched any moments of that film?
I like all three, so yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I like Colin Farrell. Jessica Biel, Kate Beckinsale. I think my favorite Kate Beckinsale story is the time she told one on Graham Norton how she put a
the
pillow
chocolate.
mint.
Yeah, we've covered that on this show before.
Yeah, that's epic. So yeah, great wild card weekend. A lot of great football played. And a lot of bad football played. So since had that little delay and we're past the first part, Jim, let's get into topic number 2 and let's really dive into that final game there, which was the first game of the weekend. As you need to send me those, you asshole. And let's go through the divisional round. As you guys can see on there, one game is already over, as the run of the AFC South champion Houston Texans is over. A 34-10 loss at the hands of the Baltimore Ravens. who
That
listen.
was that was a 10-10 game for most of the first half.
It really was. And then Baltimore just basically said, "All right, we're done toying with you," and beat their ass. Uh, Jim, I'm going to say this without having watched that highlight package yet. I was putting Bobby to sleep, and not going to lie, I took a little nap myself. Um, yeah, I don't see anybody having the juice to beat that team.
At least in the AFC right now, but let's also see because I want to say it's only the third playoff win for Lamar Jackson against a team that was actually playing second for a team kind of playing with house money. But, regardless of who he faces next Saturday at M&T Bank, it's going to be a defense that's going to be able to hawk all over him. No Matt Milano or not, for Buffalo and then Kansas City. Just this is what Kansas City does. They click once the calendar flips over to January.
They really seem to. And again, this is the best defense Patrick has had since he's been there. So, it basically becomes now tomorrow's going to be a war in at Highmark Stadium. And I do find it funny that both one seeds are playing today, but the better games are going to be tomorrow.
I was thinking the exact same thing because the San Francisco game just went to halftime and they are up 7-6.
Really?
Yes.
Green Bay came to play.
I think if there was a team, if there was a team in the NFC that could get San Francisco, I think it could be Green Bay because I think if you get Detroit into if Detroit wins and has to go to Santa Clara, you take them away from that very very hostile and loud environment at Ford Field, and it's a completely different scenario. And I'm not saying they get run off the field, but I don't think it's as close as a lot of people would think it would be. And then
No.
I think if Tampa goes there, San Francisco would just flat out open up a can of whoop ass. So I think this is the best chance that somebody's going to have to knock San Francisco out in the NFC.
No, I agree with you. I will say this though. I think both other NFC teams are making a better game than people would think.
Yes.
I think San Francisco's on the mission. And the thing that went very, very much under the radar was the addition of Chase Young to that defensive line. I mean, that was insanity that they got him for a song.
Yes.
But then again, that's the Washington Commanders. What do you expect? So, look, Baltimore took care of business in their house. Lamar gets his second playoff win. For a guy who's been to the playoffs almost every single year of his career, that's not that good, to be very honest with you. So Green Bay and San Francisco having their battle right now, 7-6 at the half, as you mentioned. Look, I like Jordan Love, and I like this Green Bay defense because Dak was having his way with the world at the second half of the season, and they really put the clamps on Dak last week. So let's see what the second half brings. For San Francisco to only score 7 points in the first half, I think says something pretty positive about Green Bay.
And what's funny is when you actually saw me, like right before we went live, where I had to run into the other room real quick, and
I heard you yell touchdown.
Yeah, it's just Purdy with an absolute over-the-shoulder dime to Kittle. Not even so much in stride, but realistically, from what I was watching that game, it's been something where Green Bay has kind of controlled the tone of a lot of the offense. It's something that this could easily be a 13-0 Green Bay game, except for a very, very key stop on 4th and 1 inside the San Francisco 15-yard line of
Really?
Jordan Love. Yeah. And then they go right down the field and get the touchdown. You know, excuse me, a few short minutes later. And this is something where Green Bay, you're not going to run them off the field here in the second half. And could we also be looking at a kind of coming of age now for Jordan Love? So that's actually now just the absolute worst thing that we need is another potential three potential all-pro quarterbacks for the same franchise for the next 50 years, it seems.
But here's the thing: with the way they do things, it'll be 45 years and 3 Super Bowls. Wait, 4. Favre went to 2. He didn't win 2, but he went to 2.
Yeah. But it would still be 45 years and 3 Super Bowl championships.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Although with the way the front office drafts, I'm sure they'll draft the 3rd string linebacker before another wide receiver. So there's that. So let's talk about tomorrow. And let's leave Tampa Bay and Detroit because I want to tell you guys out there a little something about tomorrow's Tampa Detroit game before we get to it. And let's talk about 3rd year in a row. Let's talk about the best AFC playoff game we've seen in a long time, the last few years, including an overtime game where that went to overtime because with 13 seconds left, the Kansas City Chiefs went down the field 50 yards and Butker drilled a kick to send it to overtime a couple years ago. And for the first time in Buffalo, Kansas City goes to Buffalo. And Jim, you being the Bills fan, I'm going to say this and I want to hear what you think about it. As good as the Bills are playing, Kansas City comes in with a better defense for the first time in this run of games.
They do, but the difference is this time Buffalo's coming in with the better offense,
which is shocking to me. I will say this though: when Buffalo beat Kansas City earlier in the year, Pacheco didn't play, and I think what we're going to cover in topic 3 of as Luna makes her newly contractually obligated appearance. With what we're going to talk about in number 3, playing a team without a good player can come back to bite you in your ass.
Yeah, but let's also remember, why is this game being played in Buffalo this year?
Because they blew a holding call.
Remember
because the wide receiver who's now been ruled out for tomorrow lined up offsides. Yeah. So a stupid ass play is why this game is being played in Buffalo.
Yes. But it's let's do hindsight being 2020 because of last week, because of these games being, one on Saturday because we had actually broadcast on Friday and we had no idea what the weather was going to be like. What would you rather have? No snow and 20 below wind chill, or 3.5 feet of snow, having a game moved, but the wind's not a factor?
Brunswick.
You mean Kentucky?
No. It's going to be in the 70s down here this week. But I think I'd have the snow, being very honest with you. This game is going to come down to a kicker. And yes, the wind swirl coming off of Lake Erie. We both know that intimately. High market doesn't swirl as much.
That's actually one thing that people are forgetting. You've got Butker against Brandon Bass. You got 2 of the best in the game tomorrow.
Yeah, you really do. And it's going to come down to Butker or Bass, to be very honest with you. It's going to come down to the kickers. These 2 teams are so evenly matched, and they know each other like no other. They've done this a few times. This is going to come down to kickers. And I hate to say it, God, I hope Bass doesn't go wide right to end this game.
No. But let's also let's think about this for a minute. Could we be looking at a new generation of Brady and Manning?
I think we already got it.
And to take that now a step further, if Josh outduels Patrick tomorrow, does he go into M&T, win, and then do they finish this ride? Is this finally the stepping stone for them to get over the hump? Because I think either one of these teams could potentially beat Baltimore. Because Houston is young and inexperienced. These other 2 teams, you've got 2 MVP candidates, including a 2-time Super Bowl MVP, coming into your house next week.
No, you know what? I think if any team can do it and get it done, it's Buffalo.
And
I
think
mean,
of
I
how
think
much,
Kansas
think of
City
how
can
much,
be Baltimore too, but yeah.
think of how much more dominant Buffalo would be in this game if Matt Milano didn't or wasn't lost for the year midway through the season.
Yeah. I think if Matt Milano was healthy, all things considered, and this game was still in Buffalo, I'd be more willing to pick Buffalo to win this game. As it sits now, what did Ric Flair always say? To be the man, you have to beat the man. And right now, Buffalo hasn't beaten the man in January.
You're right.
And I hate saying it because I like the Bills. I love their fan base. They're all as crazed as I am about their team as I am about my main two teams. But yeah, no, this is going to be the best game of the weekend. God, it's going to have a close runner up with the one tomorrow afternoon in Detroit.
And let's
And
talk about that one here for while we got a couple.
Jim, are we real quick? Are we talking about a football game at Ford Field that has nothing to do with college football in January again?
I mean, we are, and how think of all the storylines that we've got. Baker kind of getting another potential playoff win. Shocking. That fan base. If Green Bay wins this game, we've got Green Bay against Detroit potentially next week for the right to go to Vegas. We've got the possibility of Baker looking to punch a ticket to Vegas next week.
We could have a battle of the Bays to go to the Super Bowl.
Yep. The Phoebe Buffet Bowl.
I thought you were going to say it was the Adam Cole Bowl.
You have to stop the Q-tip when there's resistance.
I thought you were going to say the Adam Cole Bowl, baby.
Oh,
I pay attention.
I got to trademark that if Tampa wins that tomorrow. I got to jump on Twitter or Threads or something the second that game goes final before I leave to head to my cousin's house to watch.
Oh, you're going to the
yeah.
same cousin? Nice.
Yep.
So we left this game for last. As anybody who's out there watching or listening, I will be on the Buccateers podcast pregame show. I will be on at 10:30 tomorrow morning with them, probably for about a little half hour to an hour. I'll be with them. It is my buddy Tone, who from the Cardboard and Cracker Jacks and Buccateers, who I did baseball stuff on Big Rican with. Now he reached out to me today. He goes, "I need a Baker guy," and I'm like, "I'm with you." Look, I like Tampa in this game, and it's not just because of Baker. The way Detroit's defense shut down Puka last week, which they didn't really shut him down. They kind of they did the old Dan Patrick. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him.
Yeah.
They're not doing it to Godwin, Evans, and that kid who did the Randy Moss or the Michael Vick and ran through two dudes and they ran into each other.
Yep.
So it's
Detroit does have the best secondary in football. So if there's any team that can contain them,
they do. And I'll say this: yes, they have the best secondary in football. I agree. And it was Jeffrey Okudah was the first round defensive back, and I literally woke up 3:30 the other morning and remembered it was Jeffrey Okudah. And I almost sent you a message at 3:30 in the morning. I was like, "No, that's a dick move. Don't do that."
Yeah, my phone wouldn't have pinged anyway. It goes into like do not disturb mode between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
By the time your phone comes off do not disturb, I'm usually up for about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's because I saw the message you had sent me at 4:15 in the morning yesterday.
It was this morning. Yeah. I just can't sleep, dude. I even went to the new chiropractor yesterday. And I sit there and she's interviewing me, and I look to my left and I see her undergrad degree from Eastern Michigan University.
Like Booker T would say, make your back crack and your liver quiver.
Said I got more stuff wrong on my neck than my back, believe it or not. Shut up, Jim. Hit the button. Not that one, dumbass.
No, because I'm glad that you stopped me when you did, because you know where I was going to go with that.
I know exactly where you're going with that. We just hit the damn button.
The one game that we did not cover in the first segment of the triple play tonight, the dream finally comes to an end. The Browns lead 14-0 just a couple of minutes into the second quarter on Kareem Hunt's second touchdown, and it would be the only scoring that they would have as the defense fails to contain really any part of Houston's offense. Joe Flacco throws pick sixes on consecutive drives, and then the Browns surrender 35 straight points and lose 45-14.
Now, let me say this. Did they toe the line and flack around and find out way too much? Yes, they did.
Yeah.
This season was not, and I repeat, anyone in Cleveland watching this show, this season was not a failure. The reality is, yes, the Cleveland Browns were on a guy who was sitting on something looking much like what I'm sitting on right now. And he won what, 5 games?
Yes.
To get you there? Here's what happened. And I actually sat down, I watched the highlight package. I watched every single morning show and every single NFL show talk about this game. Here are 3 things nobody in Cleveland's probably talking about. Number 1, Laramie Tunsil. Yes, there was a lot of holding calls. There's a lot of holding calls missed on Myles Garrett every week. Here's the bottom line. He didn't hold him every play, but he did a damn good job of keeping Myles contained. But we also learned something on last Saturday. If this defense can't get a pass rush going, they're not nearly as good as their numbers say. And they have holes in the secondary.
They have dramatic, and we're going to talk about those holes in the secondary here in a couple of moments from what I observed watching that game in a house full of Browns fans and family.
Here's number 2. The Houston Texans, when they lost to the Cleveland Browns several weeks earlier, nobody remembered Will Anderson, Barnett, and C.J. Stroud did not play. Here's the big difference. 1, did you know that Houston had pressure on Flacco on 40% of the snaps of the entire game?
Oh, without question.
I would have thought it was more from watching a highlight package, but then I realized something. They only do pressures by certain metrics.
Yes.
So there's offensive line issues. And third, oh my God, a quarterback who can keep his offense on schedule beat a good defense. That's all, Jim, that's all we saw. There really wasn't tackling issues, I don't think, from what I saw, because it looked like a lot of either blown coverage or a lot of zone that they found the holes in. First of all, the tight end who took the screen 76 yards, he's faster than some wide receivers. Don't get pissed about that play. That was a well-designed play.
Now, I will take umbrage with that, not because of what Houston did. It's what Cleveland failed to do, but continue your point.
No, and I understand why you would. And the last point about this is, and this is going to be a low blow, and I'm sorry, but this is not directed toward you because you know where I'm coming from. How do you fix it with no salary cap and no draft? Because the majority of the secondary was on 1-year prove-it deals. They proved it being a part of the number 1 defense in the league, and someone's going to pay them.
It really wasn't the secondary. It's the front 7 that a lot of them. Shelby Harris, Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith, all were on.
Okay.
Deals. You got Obo Okoronkwo for a steal for 3 years, but
agreed.
But really,
but again, how do you maintain with no draft and no salary cap?
Right, because I think the what you see at the end there, that on Thursday, offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt and running back coach Stump Mitchell were both let go. Now comes the kowtowing to Deshaun Watson in year 3 of this contract to be able to try and tailor the offense a little bit more towards him. And I think Stump Mitchell was let go because even after Nick Chubb went out, they did not develop a run game sturdy enough, even though that this team was one of the better offensive running teams midway through the season. I think really once Deshaun Watson got hurt, and then you actually started seeing the revolving door of PJ Walker, Dorian Thompson Robinson, Joe Flacco, they definitely were out of sync in the run game. But that's where you could actually lean on that. A lot of that was on Stump Mitchell for not, blending the scheme. But Van Pelt did not really call the plays. But this is also something where I could see an OC coming in and possibly taking some of the play calling away from Kevin Stefanski, because let's also be honest, Stefanski is probably going to win, and I know we talked about it. He's probably going to win his second Coach of the Year award. But let's call a spade a spade. If you're going to give it to the Coach of the Year, it should have gone to Jim Schwartz. And I think we brought this up last week for the job that he did with all the peacemaking and patchwork that he did with that defense up until last Saturday night.
Oh, I agree with you. And again, I don't think, and this is not a shot at Kevin Stefanski, I don't think he's going to win Coach of the Year. I believe it will be DeMeco Ryans. You're taking a team that had the second and third pick in the draft, and you won a division title. It's plain and simple with a rookie quarterback. So as amazing of a job as Kevin Stefanski did, I think he did lean on the fact that he had Jim Schwartz calling the defense, and that defense was good all year. Going back to what I said before, when I meant with the secondary, Jim, was they were part of the unit that was number 1 in the league statistically in defense. The guys who were on the 1-year prove-it deals in the secondary, which is where the Browns usually have injury issues. You're going to have to go through a third year in a row of 1-year prove-it deals that take up little to no salary cap space.
And the problem with that is 2 of your stalwarts in the secondary are your 2 guys who have the one ability that really nobody on the front 7 really has a problem with, and that's availability. And we're talking about Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit, who Ward was a non-factor and got burned because he was out of position on most of those plays last Saturday, and Delpit did not even play.
And again, Denzel Ward is better in man than he is in zone. I've been telling you this for however long we've been doing this show. And every single defensive coordinator that this franchise brings in doesn't, except Greg, won't play him in man. He's a cover corner. He's not a zone corner.
And that was, I think, their problem, where I said earlier in the segment I was going to take umbrage with Jim Schwartz and the defensive play calling. So let me get this off my chest. How Jim Schwartz with that defense kept trying to take a cornerback and put him into a second spy or jack linebacker situation to cover CJ Stroud when he rolled out, rather than go back into coverage where Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Pro Bowler Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah nonetheless, had Stroud contained a lot on his own from breaking off big runs or moving the pocket too far, and really was about the only defensive player that got any kind of regular pressure when he attacked the quarterback on Saturday. Where I can understand putting 2 guys out in space, but you have to drop that cornerback back into coverage, and they did not do that. That second cornerback, whether it was MJ Stewart or even Denzel Ward on one of those, when they actually approached Stroud and did not drop back into coverage, that's where they got beat with a lot of the underneath passing, and that's actually where Ronnie Hickman and Juan Thornhill needed to be switched out, because Ronnie Hickman, playing the free safety, needed to move to strong safety because he was not fast enough to catch up like a Juan Thornhill was. in chasing down a lot of those broken coverages. So that's
Yeah.
the problem that I had. It wasn't so much the pass rush, it was the lack of adjustments and the spacing of the secondary.
No, and you had mentioned that to me. So when I watched the highlight package, I tried to watch anything where you would see the camera angles go to the safeties, and you're absolutely right. Ronnie Hickman was not in the right spot, and neither was Juan Thornhill. I'm going to go a step further, and let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. And let's say this: the 2 interceptions Flacco threw, which were on consecutive throws. The first one was a pressure interception. He had to throw off his back foot trying to make a play because his team was down multiple scores at that point in time. The second one, listen, that kid made some play, that linebacker. He read that route and jumped it, and that's why the play was made.
He did. And let's also remember on that first one, even though they looked at it a couple of times, the announcers even actually said it looked like he was trying to throw that ball away, but because of the pressure that he had, he couldn't put enough on it to throw it out of bounds. And that's why it got underthrown and taken back.
Exactly. And that happens, unfortunately. Was it garbage that it happened in a playoff game? Absolutely. But that's not on the quarterback. So on the quarterback would be thrown into triple coverage like an idiot.
You mean Deshaun Kaiser?
Yes.
Flea flicker from his own end zone into triple coverage?
Yep. Sanchez used to do that shit too. The only quarterback I've ever seen throw in a triple. What did you say? Butt fumble? Yeah.
That's what she said.
Nice. I had lost my train of thought. You're such an asshole. Oh, okay. So that would be on the quarterback. Also on the Browns offensive side of the ball, you had mentioned Stump Mitchell getting fired, Alex Van Pelt. Alex Van Pelt was a freaking figurehead. Kevin Stefanski's been a play caller, and it's been his offense the entire time. I'm going to go to bat for Stump Mitchell real quick and ask this question. Even in the wins, go back and see what the number of throws the quarterbacks made.
I agree.
Those are called plays. Kevin Stefanski, for coach of the year, all the things he gets, is pass happy when he has a run blocking offensive line and the best running back in the league. Kareem Hunt is not 5 years removed from being the best back in the NFL. Run the damn ball. You're the Cleveland Browns. Run the fucking ball. Especially in the year Jim Brown passed away. Run the ball.
And the problem is you're also trying to use Kareem Hunt as a sweeper back as opposed to run him north-south, which is what he's designed to do. You notice when you went back and watched that game, most of the plays that they in the run game that they got better results was him going either off tackle or straight up the middle. Your Pierre Strong and your Jerome Ford, that's actually where those guys should be going to the outside.
Agreed. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb have the speed to break away on the outside should the edge get set properly. But they're between the tackle runners because they will bust your ass. Jim, I'm going to say it. And I think I think this is going to get a little pushback. This season notwithstanding, Stefanski's on the hot seat next year.
And we actually said that at the outset of this year. There's one thing that I can actually take away from this year moving forward into next, regardless of who the quarterback is. Number one, the Amari Cooper trade is looking like a steal.
Good God.
Progressed this year. Number two, David Njoku is putting himself into position to be a top 5 pass catching tight end in all of football next year.
I'm going to say this. He already did. He is. He's in the top 5 easy.
And number 3, with the way that he balled out the last 2 weeks, the Cincinnati game, and I think that's also one of the reasons why they got their they got run off the field last week as sitting everybody against Cincinnati. They were rusty, but it also did actually show me something that between the Cincinnati game, even though he didn't get a whole lot of playing time through most of the season, and then also some of the big catches that he made in that in that Houston game, I think you're going to see a lot more David Bell in the offense because he catches anything that is thrown his way.
Agreed, and that was the report on him coming out of the draft. The guy's got phenomenal hands.
He's just undersized, but he's not. He's basically he's kind of the opposite of what a Corey Coleman was, because Corey Coleman was undersized and you expected him to outrun everyone. Problem was that he couldn't catch. The thing is
Yes.
David Bell's not going to outrun anyone, but he will catch anything that you throw within 5 yards of him.
He reminds me, and I'm going to throw an old Jet name at you as I hear the thing go off. He reminds me of Wayne Corbett.
I was just thinking the second you said the Jets, I was thinking Wayne Corbett.
Who did he drop anything ever?
It's a lot of those smaller, undersized receivers like that. David Bell's got that potential. Corbett, Wes Welker,
Edelman.
I couldn't actually think of his name. Yes, Julian Edelman. There's a dozen guys that if we actually sat back and we thought for 5 minutes would fill that role.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Cooper Kupp. Although Kupp I have in the upper echelon, but I get what you mean.
Right, but an undersized guy who basically catches everything and is going to put up great numbers, taking the fantasy aspect of it completely out of it. I mean, he's going to be your, first or second round fantasy pick, but neither one of us play, so what do we care at that point? But it's something that they're always, if you got 3rd and 8 and you need to get the ball to somebody, that's the guy that you're going to focus in on, because that guy's always going to find a way to get open.
Exactly. And listen, if you have one of those guys and you have a true number one, you've got a great start to a wide receiver room. What the Browns need now is a true number 2, a Jarvis Landry type. Not Jarvis anymore, but the question becomes, where are they going to find him?
Between the progression that we've seen with Cedric Tillman and also with David Bell, there's a possibility there could already be one out there, but let's actually see what happens going into year 2 for those guys. It'll be year 3 for David Bell, but year 2 of being a little bit more evident.
Year 2 of being utilized.
Yes.
So such ends the Wise Guys hat trick for episode number 55.
Well, we've still got one more because the Browns, because the playoffs were in the
Okay.
won. So the third aspect, something that came out 2 days ago that kind of went under the radar, but it affects a lot of sports here. Amazon reportedly is investing $115 million for next season, with the option of adding $50 million next year, investing in Diamond Sports Group, which is essentially the parent company of the Bally Sports Regional Sports Networks, who filed for bankruptcy near the end of 2022. This is huge, Mike.
Emotional damage.
That's the bankruptcy portion of it for Bally Sports, because their app is stupid. Sorry, I have my own little issue there. Yeah, that is huge. Let's see what Amazon does with it. So they're talking about you'll be able to watch your in-market games on Amazon as part of your Prime thing.
Right.
That's all well and good. Here's a problem with that. It could still screw baseball even more.
It could, because I kind of researched, and I want to say it's a lot of this information I took off of Forbes.com from a press release 2 days ago when this was announced late on Thursday, is that the NBA and the NHL are not affected through this season and also next, so the 2024-2025 season. Where this plays into concern is with the 11 teams that are under the Bally Sports and DSG group with Major League Baseball. Now, again, as you can see there's 11 baseball teams, 11 NBA teams, and 15 NHL teams that are all affected by this. I know as a St. Louis fan, it's affecting the Blues and Cardinals. You've got the Milwaukee teams involved in there. You've got
Oh,
all the Ohio teams involved.
San Diego.
San Diego, which remember they actually pulled pulled their own kind of back last year with the fact that things were running out. So by breaking this down, 9 MLB teams right now are safe, and those would be um, the Milwaukee Brewers, Miami Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Kansas City Royals, the Detroit Tigers, the Los Angeles Angels, the Atlanta Braves, the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Cincinnati Reds. So with this investment, their contracts for next season, namely the 2024 season, those are safe. There's not an issue there. The San Diego scenario is not dramatically affected by this because they got their relief last year. Now you might be asking, there's 11 teams. I just read off 9. The Texas Rangers and the Cleveland Guardians are looking, Bally and Diamond are looking to possibly restructure those deals for a lower cost coming out of the initial bankruptcy filings from the end of 2022.
You're telling me the regional network that hosts the world champions,
Which is your Dallas market nonetheless.
how bad did Bally fuck this up? On a scale, hold on, let me give you a thing. On a scale of bad refereeing to Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, how bad did they fuck this up?
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
Fair enough.
It's absolutely atrocious. You know, the fact that what's going to happen after this season for a lot of these teams. The fact
And
that
here's a real killer. Every owner of the teams you just mentioned has the ability to set up a regional network with money. They're all wealthy enough and have enough connections to do it. How in the world have the Cleveland Guardians and the Cincinnati Reds not sat down and said, let's own the Midwest? Because they could do it. For years, the Cubs were on public television.
WGN,
And when I say public, WGN. And when I say public television, I don't mean like Wayne and Garth. I mean like a public airwave TV station. Yeah,
aren't they still?
They're not fully on WGN because Cubs have their own shtick going in Chicago too.
Because the White Sox are Comcast, am I not correct?
Yeah, they are, and it's like the Mets on SNY and Pix, where the most of the season is on SNY. Pix has so many games. Usually Sunday afternoon games are on Pix 11 in New York.
Yeah, and you noticed on with what I brought up, a lot of there's several teams that are on the Yes Network that are not affected, by this. So
yeah, the teams that have the regional networks are not going to be affected by this. So like
right.
Yes, SNY,
NESN,
NESN, TSN up in Canada.
Yes.
Any of your Comcast ones, yeah. And I'm surprised that the Braves aren't on a Comcast one. Comcast is headquartered down here.
Well, remember, really all of these used to be the old Fox Sports, and then Fox Sports basically sold off to Bally, and they were on Fox Sports.
That's right.
Southeast, yes.
Yeah, and that's right, because the Mets got out of Fox Sports New York and went to SNY in 2006. So yeah, no, this could be good. Listen, having it on Prime, I don't know a whole lot of households that don't have Amazon Prime. With that comes Prime Video.
Let me just say you have access to a Prime account if you needed it. That's all I'm gonna say.
I agree. Although I will actually say I will not sign up for Prime because the only just yet, but there was a workaround that if I wanted to watch Thursday night football, which was only on Prime, um, just log on to Amazon's Twitch account, their Twitch channel, and you could watch all those. I mean, so every week, every game this year, all I had to do was actually put on Twitch on my Switch.
Say that 3 times fast.
Twitch on my Switch.
I was just gonna do that. Oh God.
Okay.
What were you doing?
As I was looking outside, I actually was hearing a plow, and apparently we got a little bit more snow than we thought today.
I'll take the snow over the bolt in the tire.
Yeah.
So, Jim, so comes the end of our second Wise Guys hat trick. Really, we can call this one a square. Kinda.
Kind
More
of.
rectangle. The thumbs are not as long. So we're going to hit halftime. We're going to come back to you with our newly named second segment, and we will take it home with a special announcement not only about the Wisies, but also about our show in 2 weeks from tonight. Very special guests that I had the good fortune of lining up today. So we will see you guys in the back end of the next 5 minutes. Smoke them if you got them. Get the drink. Use the restroom. We'll see you in a few.
And we got a loaded second half, and we're gonna plow right through it. But
we're just not going to be loaded.
Yeah, that'll be bad. Yeah, we'll talk about that in the second half.
Okay.
We'll see you guys in a few.
See you in a few. And welcome back.
I think that was one of the better ideas we had in 2023 was adding that halftime show finally.
Oh my God.
Quick update before we get into the second half of the show. Cavs win big. I want to say that's now 6 in a row for them, maybe 7. And the Green Bay Packers have just taken a 21-14 lead with 5:23 left to go in the third quarter over the 49ers. In a third quarter that's actually seen now 3 lead changes, according to the Fox Sports that I tuned into for like 2 minutes while we were gone.
Yeah. So, Jim, would you like to tell me what our new segment is called?
We were thinking of actually this might still be a work in progress. The format is there. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the blast.
Just as everything is with us, a blast. This is the Wise Guys Blast for the second half of our show. And you see some of the topics on the bottom. Let's start with the second one in.
This is really going to be us whipping around the 4 major sports, kind of not spending a whole lot of time. We're not going to do an hour here. Our goal is to maybe kind of get this pretty close to, a normal segment from the first segment, from the first part of the show. 15, maybe 20 minutes covering everything there that just kind of got swept under the rug, or something that was that could have actually deserved its own segment in the hat trick / triple play in the first half of the show, but something else major just kind of pushed it to the back end. So this is basically where we catch up on everything else that we wanted to talk about tonight, but just not deserving enough of a full 20 in the first hour.
Yeah, and it's not that they don't deserve their own full 20. It's just basically were secondary stories to the big stuff we're covering. I mean, NFL playoffs is the biggest thing going right now.
Right.
The monetary impact to the franchises and the leagues is why we hit the Bally thing in the first half as well. But let's start with the second one in. The Islanders have fired their coach.
Lane Lambert was relieved of his duties earlier today. As an Islander fan, this one kind of hurt, but the Islanders have lost 4 in a row. They're 2-6-2 in their last 10. They are 2 points out of the final wild card spot in the Eastern Conference right now. But again, losing 4 in a row the way that they've done, and this was a team that was actually right on the Rangers' ass for the top spot in the Metropolitan Division about 6 weeks ago, and the wheels have just kind of come off. The Bo Horvat trade is still looking good, but Ilya Sorokin has not been the Vezina candidate in net that they've expected right now, so a change had to be made. So former Cleveland Monsters head coach Lane Lambert let go. And Michael, who is the new coach of the New York Islanders effective tomorrow?
Well, it's funny that you brought up the Vezina Trophy, James. And I'm not the biggest hockey person. We all know that. But this guy should have the damn thing renamed for him, as all-time great goalie Patrick Waugh is now the new head coach of the New York Islanders. And listen, if you got a goalie struggling, that's the dude you want on the bench. Also, I think Patrick Waugh is going to bring a fire to this team like he did the teams he goalied and backstopped to multiple Stanley Cup championships and maybe the greatest fight in NHL history.
It's up there, but
he beat Chris Osgood's ass.
He did, but there's still a part of me that actually thinks the greatest line brawl I've ever seen was the Sabres Senators brawl from 2007, where Ray Emery started getting into it with defensemen. The late Ray Emery now.
That was pretty good. But no, when I watched Osgood and Waugh look at each other down the ice and the sticks and the gloves went down and those two came skating out, I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, but let's also keep in mind that was the rivalry in the NHL back in the 90s.
Detroit and Colorado, absolutely.
The documentary that ESPN did about it was fantastic.
You know what? That's about the only thing they do good these days. Anyways, so I think it's a plus. When you get to a guy with a kind of fire like Patrick Waugh has had, not only as a player, But I think what he will bring as a coach, I think it's going to help the Islanders. They're
I
a
think
very good team that hit a very rough spot.
I do think so because, quite honestly, since Barry Trotz left there a couple of years ago after getting them to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals, and probably should have been a Stanley Cup final had the on ice officials knew how to count the number of players that were on the ice for Tampa Bay that year. Um, Still can't believe they actually scored a goal when they had 7 guys on the ice.
I remember that, and I'm not a big hockey guy, but I remember that, and I remember being pissed for the Islander fans.
Yeah, although the Islanders actually, had 5 on the ice while they were shorthanded, but like one of those guys was within the area, where, and they also hadn't touched the puck at that point, but there were still 7 guys on the ice while Tampa had possession. Anyway, neither here nor there, but it's, kind of really going back over the last maybe 10 years, you've had Jack Capuano, you've had Barry Trotz, now you had Lane Lambert, and now you got Patrick Waugh. And I think I'm not sure if Waugh is going to be the long-term solution, but for a team that's right now knocking on the door to the playoffs and quite honestly should be good enough on paper to be one of the top 3, let alone contending for just a wild card, I think you're right. I think this is the kick in the ass that team needs. Anders Lee needs to step up. Matt Barzal needs to step up. Sorokin needs to start getting back to form.
No, I agree with you. And when I saw that and I sent it to you immediately, it was like, we will discuss. Not just because I want to do more hockey, because of your love for the sport. That's a name from our youth, dude. Him and Marty Brodeur were the preeminent goalies of our youth. A little bit of Hasek in there.
I was just going to say Dominic Hasek.
But Hasek was a window of when he was dominant. These two dudes were dominant from the moment they got in between the pipes, one in Edmonton and one in Jersey. Then, of course, Waugh goes to Colorado and Marty Brodeur stayed in Jersey.
Well, you meant Montreal.
Or Montreal, excuse me. Wait, was he Montreal or was he Edmonton?
Montreal.
It was Montreal? Okay. Oh, that's right. He didn't play with Gretzky. Okay, never mind. Again, not a big hockey guy.
It was Grant Fuhr.
Oh, okay. And he went to Philly, right?
Where didn't Grant Fuhr play? He played in St. Louis. He played in Philly. He was with Edmonton. Yeah, where didn't Grant Fuhr play?
So for a guy like Grant Fuhr, we say, I don't know, Bartolo. Okay. Let's get to another one, and I see the child molester. I mean,
quickly,
Josh,
my new baby of the now the number 1 team in the NHL.
Is that the one you were telling me about? The ordered?
At least through action tonight, as it stands at this very moment, the Winnipeg Jets are the best team in the NHL points wise. With their 2-1 overtime win against the Ottawa Senators this afternoon in Canadian Tire Center in Canada, Ontario. Connor Hellebuck is one bad some bitch between the pipes in Winnipeg.
I like the way you say that too.
I think Helly got robbed of the Vezina last year. I think right now he is far and away running away with it in 2024.
That's good. I hate when dudes get robbed of awards.
As a Jets fan, going back to when they debuted in Atlanta in 1999, I would love to see the Jets break through and make a real deep run because this franchise has never made a Stanley Cup final, and they've only got one Western Conference Finals appearance. And I want to say that was the first year that Vegas went to the finals.
Wow. It's a long time coming. So, yeah, good luck to them. I love the jersey, by the way. I was waiting to see it when you told me you're ordering it.
I used to have one, and then I kind of grew out of it, but that's also when Reebok was doing it. But
Reebok ran small everything because my Pennington jersey is Reebok.
Well, these are the new Fanatics brand, and they actually have real quick. They have what they call Fantex with their NHL jerseys, so they stretch a little bit more throughout.
They have it with their basketball jerseys too. That's what I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
I wore my Larry Nance jersey last weekend.
And normally, I mean, like every other piece of clothing that I own in terms of tops, they're all larges. That's actually a medium. So those actually they're a little bit more slim fit, but they run a size smaller because of the material that they use. And Fanatics is taking over as the NHL's official jersey provider starting next year. A lot of people hate the Fanatics jerseys. I love them.
Do you know what the good part about that is? And this is being a big dude. Fanatics runs to 5X. So I mentioned, I wore the Nance jersey, which, by the way, being down here in Georgia and starting to thin out a little bit, not really thin out. Oliver, it's about time. The the Nance jersey I wore to work.
Emotional damage.
Nice. I wore it last weekend and it fits great, but it's stretchy. And it's I love it. I would love the NBA to get a Fanatics deal like that.
You know, and I gotta say, even though that they run stretchy, the Fanatics brand stuff is so goddamn comfortable.
Yeah, no, that's most of my Ohio State apparel from like the bowl games and stuff is Fanatics brand apparel because Nike never runs big guy stuff. The only big guy Nike thing I own is my Denzel Ward jersey.
But as we pivot from my favorite sport and one of my teams, Michael, in all honesty, you've kind of thrown me under the bus or kind of given me the low-hanging fruit. What in the hell are the Ohio State Buckeyes thinking bringing in Bill O'Brien to run the offense next year?
They're thinking he ran the offense of multiple Heisman Trophy winners. He was the OC when Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy. He is going to be the main play caller, which he has excelled at Penn State. He made Christian Hackenberg a second-round pick. Christian Hackenberg is to quarterbacking what Johnny Manziel is to staying sober.
Christian Hackenberg is to quarterbacking what I am to quarterbacking.
Exactly. And he made Christian Hackenberg a second-round pick. Now, granted, it was the fucking Jets. But they brought him in for that. He is going to be co-offensive coordinator with Brian Hartline. More importantly, you now have more NFL cachet at really, outside of Alabama, the biggest NFL pipeline in college football. In the year you expand to the largest Big Ten and the coast-to-coast footprint of the Big Ten, or dick print of the Big Ten.
That's what I'm calling the conference now.
The dick print.
Dick print.
You know, I didn't do a TikTok today because of everything else that was going on. When I do it for the Wisies, I'm putting that in there. But more importantly, having that cachet and now familiarity with a player. Did you see what they did last night?
Yes. How could you not? Because it's with all the news coming out, they have actually, with everything that they're doing with the transfer protocol, they're getting more activity in the last week and a half since their season ended than the NFL did at the trade deadline.
Let me put it this way. What you are seeing right now between the haul they got on signing day and the transfer portal is exactly why they can't fire Ryan Day. I love Vrabes. I love him, but he's not going to be able to recruit like this.
And what? Also, I actually saw that they've got a new athletic director.
The new AD, he came from Texas A&M.
He can't take over until like July 1 or something, right? Because of his contractual obligation.
Exactly. But whenever Gene Smith is fully done, he will be the athletic director of Ohio State. Now, yes, he's the guy who hired Jimbo, so I don't know. I just don't know. Having said that, he's also the guy who had the balls to fire Jimbo and get him the hell out.
Yes.
But he has given Ryan Day a stamp of approval. I still believe Day will have a short hook. I'm going to pivot into from here after one more point real quick about that into the one all the way to the right. Day's got to win the big one next year in November. He's got to win at home in Columbus in November, and it's got to happen. I think if he goes to 4 in a row, even I'm going to want him going. They cannot have a repeat of John Cooper. But then again, when the Donald Trump of college football may be in LA with the Chargers, it may not matter because you may see guys from Michigan start to jump into the portal as well. And I bring that up because you had the NFL coaching clarity with Dallas, Philly, Las Vegas, the Chargers, and Atlanta in there. And it's funny you mentioned that because I just had a Google update come over. Arthur Blank wants Billy real bad.
Yeah, that's because we've got really most of the news that's come out of there. Real quick to go through it. Mike McCarthy is not getting an extension in Dallas next year. He's going to be much like how Jason Garrett was and play out. He's basically going to be coaching on with no further contract. He's going into the final year of his contract with which remember Jason Garrett did twice during his tenure. Nick Sirianni is reported to remain with Philadelphia through next year, at least through next year. Antonio Pierce had the interim tag removed and got signed to a contract and will be the next head coach, official full head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
I'm going to interrupt you there. Did you see what Mark Davis said? He said, I've been really bad at this, but when the entire locker room is going to mutiny, you should listen.
And I'm going to come back to Pierce here in just a second. You actually talked about the possibility of Harbaugh going to the Chargers, and that's now starting to pick up a lot more steam, although I did actually hear from what was it? It was halftime of the Texans game because that one was on ABC/ESPN. So Van Pelt was doing the halftime, and they were talking to Shefty. And Shefty actually said that there will not be a full decision made on Harbaugh's future until at least the end of next week. So we're playing a little bit of a waiting game here to see whether does Michigan sign him to an extension or does he go to the Chargers because he is very, very high on the opportunity of working with Justin Herbert, which I honestly think say what you want about his practices in Ann Arbor. The idea of him working with Justin Gilbert is very, very intriguing for next year.
Where does the Chargers pick in the draft?
Hold, please.
Actually, you know what? How many draft picks do they have in this one? How many draft picks do the LA Chargers have in the 2024 NFL draft?
The Chargers are picking 5th.
According to Chargers, with the offseason in full.
They're picking at number 5, and I thought I changed her to British accent. Anyway, don't be surprised.
I have your answer. The Chargers have 8 picks next year. They pick at 5. They pick early in the second round. They pick in the third round. They've got pick 69. Nice.
Nice.
They've got a 4. They've got a 5. They've got a 6, and then 2 7s. So they're not losing any pick, and then that second pick in the 7th round is a compensatory pick. So they're not on the hook for, and they own all of their picks. So they're not getting any picks from anyone, and they didn't actually ship anything off. So that's one of the smart things that I want to say that their front office did before they got all kicked out the door was making sure that they had a full stock of picks going into a new regime.
So let me say this too, and I'm going to remind you of something. Who left school out of Ann Arbor?
JJ.
Yep.
But he's basically
do not be shocked.
He's done basically everything that he needs. He's got 3 Big Ten. He was on
3 Big Ten titles. He's got a national championship.
National championship. Yep.
And now don't be shocked if he's wearing an LA Chargers uniform next year.
Not for the money that they paid Herbert, because Herbert's in that. Herbert was
Not saying
one
to
of those
start.
guys that got the massive extension.
Not saying to start, but Jimmy's going to want to bring in somebody who knows what he wants to do while he's teaching Herbert. It's not a bad thing to have a young rookie backup who knows how to run your offense you're going to implement. God forbid Herbert, who's been hurt the last couple of years a few times.
I don't see JJ, but I think Blake Corum is potentially on their radar. Maybe if he falls into that second round at 37.
Yeah, because at 5, they got to go somewhere defense. Or I'm sorry, they got to go offensive line.
Yes.
So
The website that I'm looking at, tankathon.com, is actually projecting that they're going Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, at 5 from LSU, which honestly, they don't have any game-breaking receivers right now. That's not a bad idea for them. They're selecting Kalen King, the cornerback out of Penn State, at 37, and then they're going offensive tackle with that 69 pick in the 3rd round. Which honestly, just by looking this over, that's not a bad idea. You get a skill position, you shore up the secondary, and then because you don't need to go. I don't think this is a very heavy, but then again, we'll forecast that as we go into March and April. I don't think this is the deepest offensive line draft where you're going to get a stalwart in the top, really outside of midway through the 1st round.
yeah, now that I think about it, you're right. The offensive line prospects in this draft aren't as deep as they were even last year when you had Paris Johnson go 6 to Arizona. Skoronski went in the 1st round. You had the kid from Tennessee who went to Chicago, which is another one we're going to get deep into in the next few weeks, is what the Chicago Bears are going to do. And we'll get into who our guest is in 2 weeks. I do want to talk about Atlanta a little bit. And I want to float a scenario to you. Okay. Chicago does the unthinkable and trades the 1st pick, or trades Justin Fields, excuse me. How does Justin Fields look in Atlanta with Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and all those weapons and Bill Belichick?
I will say this: if Belichick doesn't end up there, I could actually see a possibility of where Atlanta maybe lands Harbaugh.
He did a second interview.
I saw that Bill did a second interview, but if the thing
So
with
did Harbaugh.
If Belichick falls through, I like the idea. I really, any one of these warm weather type teams with Harbaugh, I think he could do wonders with, especially with the good young talent. Now, Atlanta, they're not, I don't think Desmond Ritter's really the quarterback of the future, but it's a stopgap with all of the other talent that they have, that he could actually start building a defense or tailor an offense to where you can use Ritter as like a Trent Dilfer or a Joe Flacco, is that be a game manager.
Yeah, I think it's all Ritter ever going to be, no matter who his coach is. I'm saying that the speculation right now, even Kuiper is saying it, is that they're going to trade Justin Fields to Atlanta, which, it is what it is, but that'd be interesting. Justin Fields there with a decent offensive line and actual weapons. Oh my God, we might actually see him play well.
And climate control on turf, and just how exciting that would be.
And he's home.
Yes.
So that would be interesting. Last thing on the coaching thing, I want to just say, I want to go back to McCarthy for a minute. He doesn't deserve an extension. The fact that Jerry is willing to go into the final year with McCarthy tells me that he's comfortable with Mike McCarthy. And again, listen, the guy has won a couple of division titles. He's gotten to the playoffs just about every year he's been there. At some point in time, the media and everybody else has got to start putting the onus on these players. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, because let's also be honest, McCarthy was good in Green Bay and then was unceremoniously shoved out the door. And then he kind of gets the same rap down there in Big D. But let's also be honest. McCarthy's not under center shit in the bed late in the year.
And McCarthy's not missing tackles or blowing coverages or anything else. I say this about baseball all the time, and I've said it to you on either Big Weekend or here or somewhere. You can put a pitcher in a situation. You can make the right substitution, left-handed hitter against a right-handed reliever. If one person executes and the other doesn't, that's not on the manager. That's not on the coach. That's on the player. And unfortunately, because of the amount of money these guys make, no one puts the onus on the players ever, especially not in the NFL.
And last thing before we get into band practice here, the last thing that you see on that list, Josh Giddey was I don't want to say cleared, but there will not be pursuing charges after the investigation was closed that there was no criminal activity to be found there. So,
well, and I'm gonna say this: I'm glad he didn't do what he was accused of. I'm glad that he's been cleared of it, that he can move on with his life now. Some of it was comedic gold, not gonna lie.
Yes,
but that's a rough thing to come back from. He's gonna have a hard time. He's gonna have to ball out and play well in order for this to go away.
Right. I mean, just booed obsessively every time he's been on the road, but again, I don't want to say it's a trend, kind of like he's not going to have the sort of Trevor Bauer type vindication, when and if Bauer comes back and pitches in the majors this year, which I would like to see. Some of his personal beliefs or anything aside. And by the way, you need to go watch tomorrow. You need to go watch the new Momentum video that came out earlier today. It is a 10-sport challenge. It's Cole, Sim, Marika, and Tosh. 10 sports. It's a 69 or die challenge.
Stop it.
And it's 10 different sports. Throw a baseball 69 miles an hour. Throw a lacrosse. Make a shot 69 miles an hour. Soccer, you have to score from 69 feet away.
That's awesome.
Football, run a 69-yard dash. Bowling, closest to 69 pins in 10 frames without going over, a la Price is Right.
That's awesome.
Tennis, 69 mile an hour serve.
That's not hard.
There's a few more that I'm thinking of, but it's also first one, and I'm not going to spoil too much of it here, but the premise is first one to get it. So if the first person out the box hits the 69 marker, they automatically get 4 points. If you don't complete, you don't get zero. You don't get anything. Lowest score has to go to Twin Peaks Lodge on a date, dressed to the nines, with a blow-up doll.
I love them even more now.
Marika brings so much more to the table with them. So basically,
that's phenomenal.
You pull Trev out for certain things as he's kind of getting acclimated back in, and then you plug her in. It's so damn fun, especially at the end, because there is a Leroy Jenkins moment.
Are you serious?
So you need to watch this. You need to set aside about 25 minutes, and you need to watch this video tomorrow morning.
Real quick, 21-17 Packers, 11.5 left in the fourth quarter. San Francisco has the ball.
3rd and 10 on their own 39. From what I know.
Brock Purdy passed deep middle to Jay Jennings to Green Bay 40 for 21 yards.
I actually now have that it's actually saying 1st and 10 on their own 25.
I think it means 1st and 10 on the Green Bay 25.
Yeah, it's okay. For whatever reason, the main ESPN page refreshed for me, and then it took it back 2 minutes because now
go into the Gamecast. It's easier to follow.
Yeah, I just went into the Gamecast here because I was on the main ESPN page thinking, if any breaking news comes through here. But yeah, This one's going right down to the wire. It's so we kind of want to get out and be able to maybe go watch the end of this one. But Michael,
James.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the favorite segment of the night, the way we end the day, the YZ Translator. And as you can see, at least we don't have secondhand syphilis like someone else in the news. You need to change that little thing every single week, and I will read it every single week.
That's one of the surprises that I have. Yes, there will be a tagline for the YZ Translator going forward.
So for those of you just joining us for the first time, the YZ Translator is when Jim and I give each other names inside or outside the sports world, and we pick the first thing that pops into our cruddy little minds and say it out loud on the air. We have had everything from, what did you... Hunter Biden being Jim's last week and calling Marjorie Taylor Greene Barney Rubble, which I thought was phenomenal.
Thank you, Keith Olbermann.
Thank you, Keith Olbermann. And as always, the classics of Victor Wembanyama being blown into Lake Michigan, Brett Favre being compared to Boss Hogg. I will go a little John Rice for you and say Joel Embiid being compared to a walking insurance claim. And as always, Kyrie Irving, douche canoe, douche canoe, douche canoe. So, and we have a method to our madness. Oliver, it's the YZ Translator. You need to walk away. Thank you. Jim, we will start the YZ Translator as always with me giving you the first name of the night. And James, your first name in the YZ Translator is Bill O'Brien.
It's a little bit past Christmas, but he's more of a retread than the tires on the car in A Christmas Story. They were round. They're round. They were once made out of rubber. They have no treads on them. So, yeah.
You just compared the offensive coordinator at a major college program and a former NFL head coach and GM to ghetto tires,
Where the lug nuts go flying everywhere on the side of the road.
Notice I didn't say you were wrong.
Find the lie.
Like I said, I didn't say you were wrong. That's a little harsh. Dick.
Michael, your first name in the YZ Translator, let's stick with a Buckeye theme here. Although it pained me to actually see what he did last week, and I think you know where I'm going. Your first name in the YZ Translator tonight, CJ Stroud.
One badass motherfucker. Because he's only going to get better.
You shut your mouth.
I'm just talking about CJ Stroud.
And that's the second straight week we've had a Shaft reference.
That is. And, real quick, did you watch the Emmys?
Why?
The In Memoriam, which they do every year. So, first of all, they start the In Memoriam because Norman Lear, who created The Jeffersons, All in the Family, Good Times, all the TV shows. It started with Rob Reiner and Sally Struthers in the bunker's living room with Norman Lear's signature hat on the thing. Charlie Puth is there singing the one from Fast and Furious. See you again. Halfway through, he switches to I'll Be There For You. Dude, and because we both know music, you hear it. You hear the cadence of the song change, and I'm like, he's not doing this. Third person mention was Richard Roundtree, which is why I did the Shaft thing. Yeah, and the last one you saw was Matthew Perry. And, I ugly cried when I saw that.
I'm going to need to go back and watch that. But the other thing you kind of need to watch is the new Taylor Tomlinson show After Midnight
I
debuted
can't.
early this week.
I did see clips from that.
Did you
I
see
did
the
see
one?
clips from that.
Did you see the ones with Kirk Branauer and Whitney Cummings?
I didn't.
They kept asking if Whitney actually was trying to get thrown off the show with some of the off the cuff things that she was saying. I'm just excited that now there's a whole new generation that has never experienced hashtag wars before.
Hashtag wars are fun.
Hashtag wars, especially when we went from Chris Hardwick to now Taylor Tomlinson doing it. Love it.
That's
I want to say
crazy.
Mr. Pantsley actually got on the original one with Chris Hardwick on Comedy Central. I think Mr. Pantsley won one night.
That's hilarious. And yeah, he'd win. He'd win. James, your second and final name this evening in the Wisey Translator is former Arizona Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury.
Still the best draft setup we've ever seen, but that's about where it ends.
I brought him up as a lead into the end of the translator, what we're going to discuss for 2 weeks from now. He has interviewed for the OC job in Chicago, and he was the offensive quality control coach for the USC Trojans for the last 2 years. Yeah.
We didn't do an FMK tonight, but Bill O'Brien, Cliff Kingsbury, which one's going to blow up faster?
Kingsbury. Because
Marshawn
Caleb
Lynch.
Williams, yeah, exactly. Marshawn Lynch. It doesn't matter.
I need to add a Marshawn Lynch to the soundboard.
Yes, we do. And it's got to be the soundbite from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We need it for the Wiseys, Jim.
There will be something else coming for the Wiseys, and I already told you off air what it's going to be, so it'll be ready.
That's awesome. I do appreciate that.
Michael,
by the way, that drive for the 49ers ended in no points. And on the first play of the next drive, Green Bay's running back took it 53 yards into San Francisco territory.
Yeah, I actually just got the update here. There's under 8 minutes to go. Yeah, so that drive ended in no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
No would have been okay.
Michael, staying with the comedy theme, we brought him up a couple of minutes ago. Your second and final name in the Wisey Translator tonight, you better put some respect on his name because we're going to be talking about royalty here. The king of JUCO, Eric Sim.
Jabroni.
We love tanks.
I prefer La Steroid Daddy Hack and his Swamp Donkeys, but
Jim did another one early, actually also that dropped a few hours before we went live. He was in the cage with Cole, trying to hit a home run through the pitching machine in all 30 MLB stadiums in one sitting.
doable.
It was. His hands his hands looked like road rash by the time he got done.
I can imagine.
Oh, they were blistered and shredded. He did it, and I want to say it was about a little over an hour and 40 minutes. Yeah, I'll spoil it a little bit. 369 swings.
Oh. Carlson just missed a chip shot.
It's actually saying right now Green Bay is a 66.9% favorite to win this game. Nice.
So Jim and I have teased this a couple times in the last few minutes. Next week will be the second annual Wisely Awards and the first annual induction into the Wisely Hall of Fame. Next Saturday night at 9 p.m., we will not have a format. It will be the award show type with your two hosts. Well, I got a special outfit for the night planned. Jim's not going to like it.
I will be relatively dressing up now that my new dress shirts showed up.
Oh, no, I'm t-shirting it, but it's special.
Yeah, and quite honestly, it may not be the worst thing in the world considering how fucking cold it is here in Cleveland. Maybe the extra layers might not be the worst thing because right now it is 17 degrees outside with a wind chill of 2.
It's going to be toasty next weekend, so I'm going to dress for comfort. As all day I had on a hoodie, so it was chilly today. So next week will be the Wisey Awards. It will be one of our few long form not non-scripted, but non-formatted shows. And in 2 weeks, we are going to have a very special guest. A friend of mine from upstate New York. He is a former player at Temple University. Back to the days when Temple went to Gainesville and he played against Emmitt Smith. Our special guest in 2 weeks is Mr. Eddie Parker. He was a hard-hitting safety for Kingston High School and Temple, and just so happened to be teammates and still close friends with the head coach of the NFC South Division champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Todd Bowles. We're going to talk to him about playing big-time college football, his friendships he made from that, and his connections to both the New York Jets and now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers through Todd Bowles. Eddie is an old friend of mine that I met through people I knew up in New York when I lived there. Funnily enough, we were talking yesterday, and I will ask him about this, but I'll tell you guys this. Baker Mayfield is only in Tampa because Bruce Arians adores him. And I think it's worked out well for everybody involved. So we got a really special guest in a couple weeks. So we got lots going on with us because, listen, Jim, we got the Wisies next week. That closes out January already. That's the first episode of February is the one with Eddie on it. And then, of course, Big Rican comes back probably this week because I have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off. I will find time to do that. And then we're into NBA trade deadline. We're into Super Bowl. We're into MLB spring training starts. We got the NHL All-Star weekends as well as NBA All-Star weekends. And here we thought the winter would be boring, Jim.
Because that's actually going to be perfect timing for Eddie to come on because we got the Wisies next week that are going to be during conference championships. We'll preview those very, very, very quickly. So any topic stuff that we have, even if we don't do monologues or anything, it's going to be no more than 5 minutes.
No, it's not going to be
and I don't think we're doing 2 hours next week. I honestly think we'll be pretty close to like an hour and a half. We're going to be whipping through a lot of awards. I got some graphics I'm going to end up doing throughout the course of the week. And then Eddie coming on is going to be perfect because it's going to be that week gap between conference championships before the Super Bowl. And we'll probably have a Super Bowl preview the following week because it's going to be the night before the game.
Let's work on guests for that. I'm thinking, Jim, for the night before the Super Bowl.
Funny, my hand just got the same cramp.
I will send messages when we're done. Yeah, we need to make the 4 Horsemen of the Wise Apocalypse happen the night before the Super Bowl. And we need a special intro for that.
Oh, I'll risk the copyright infringement, and I will get the music.
I was going to say, I will
get the music.
I have it. Jim Brewer did a video on the Mets rotation in 2016. Syndergaard, Harvey, Matz, and DeGrom. And he did it to 4 Horsemen. I will send it to you and just pull Brewer out of it. Oh my God. Who says we need John Rice for good ideas?
Yeah, but if we go past 4, we've got to actually start thinking a different theme.
No, I can't. We can't. No. If anything,
Yeah.
it's more DX than NWO.
People forget that that theme was originally porn music.
No, what? Wait, Hogan's song?
No, the NWO song was originally written for porn.
You know, with Hall and Nash, that makes a lot of sense. So we will see you guys next week, same time, same bat channel for the second annual YZ Awards. I know Jim is going to give me shit for my shirt. I know he is. I know he is going to. That's going to be part of the monologue. I'm going to take a few more lumps, but it will be worth it. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the end of this game as Brock Purdy is just taking this team down the field. It is already first and 10 at the Green Bay 22, or I'm sorry, Green Bay 26.
26.
San Francisco going in and take the lead with 3:05 left in the fourth quarter.
So we're going to get out so we can go watch the end of this. Everyone enjoy the games tomorrow. We'll see you guys next Saturday night for the Wysies.
Take care, guys.